What's up, Planco fans? You're watching M&J Games. I'm Jasmine.
And I'm Michael.
And today we are showing you Michael's most recent sandbox park called Canyon Valley. Before we get too into the weeds, I just thought we could start off with a few questions. Michael, can you tell us a little bit about your park?
Yeah, so this is a park I've been working on for a while. Honestly, I started working on it before we created our channel. And once we kind of created our YouTube channel, I kind of put it on hold for just a little bit. But it's a park that I kind of got inspired from Cedar Fair style parks, because where we're located in America, a lot of theme parks here have massive coasters, and so that's kind of where I've geared a lot of my coasters around, as you can see. And especially with this entrance style, I'm not great at theming, so I definitely need to get better with that. But I want it to be just a very just kind of a basic park, but yet it still looks nice. And so you can kind of see the entrance here. I will say I kind of modeled and got some of this from Nerd Chacho in his tutorial series, because he did something similar, and he showed how you can create these kind of fake restrooms, essentially, to where it looks like it's an actual theme park and stuff. And so that's kind of where I got the idea and inspiration for starting it. So.
Yeah, and it just looks... The entrance is very grand to me, so I really like how that turned out, especially with the name Canyon Valley in the middle.
Well, and the first thing I did want to do too on this coaster, and now looking back on it, probably not the most realistic for being in floorless, obviously really tall, but I wanted to create the largest inversion in the world. And let me get in a different camera. And I didn't really do the research on how tall it was till after. And this is about 212 feet, where the largest, or maybe it's even more than that, where the largest inversion is like 197 feet. So broke it by a good amount in terms of thinking about roller coasters breaking records. But I really wanted to kind of do this parking lot because I hadn't done one before. It's not really realistic in terms of how it would work, but I just think it's really cool, kind of, as you're in the parking lot, you're right by this massive coaster.
Yeah. How did you come up with the name Canyon Valley?
Yeah, so I did the desert map because I'm sure a lot of you guys on console kind of are in the same boat where I am, where it's like I want to have a big park, but I just don't like having kind of leftover dead space in my park where there's nothing. And so, water's kind of my go-to with a lot of that. But like some of them, like the Alpine, the Deciduous, some of those maps are just so large, and this one to me seemed pretty average for the size. If you don't mess with kind of the hills on the side and stuff, right? And so I just changed kind of the terrain paint on it, because as you can see, it's the desert one, but yet it's it looks more green. Yeah, it's more grass. And so I thought, it's a desert setting in a canyon, but it's kind of got this valley. But then again, I named that before I put in all the water. So Canyon Valley doesn't quite go with having as much water as it does, but that's how I kind of came up with the name.
Well, it looks like a huge map from everything you built. So yeah. I haven't played this this map at all, I don't think.
Yeah, it's actually, at least in my opinion, I believe this one, along with the city map and the tropical one, seem to be the smallest, especially if you don't mess, because you could actually, if you look at the map here, I believe you could go mostly up this hill.
Yeah.
So you could actually mess with the terrain up to, I think it's like here or something. I can't remember the exact spot. So if you mess with the kind of the hills on the side, it can be a very large map. But yeah.
Okay, so where do you want to start off?
Let's start here at the entrance, and we'll look at nighttime views at the end, because I think a lot of stuff literally looks well at night. But as you can see, there's actually 130% in this park, because I used an Oswald cheat. That's how I could get so much. And what I did was I copied 5 coasters and 4,000 pieces, which basically was all the cars and stuff. But we'll look at the end at night, and so that's how I was able to get 130%. So let's start here at the entrance. And to get a good view of it, let me actually give me a second, let me do the Plip Cam cheat. So now we can actually, let me get rid of the HUD. There we go. So now we can walk around and actually view it as a guest. And so like I said, I'm going to keep the time at this time until we look at it at night. But so we've got kind of ticket offices there. And then here we've got will call offices, but those actually put informational things. The only thing is that building doesn't really fit with the other styles. But I didn't want it to be too much of the same.
Yeah.
And Jasmine actually helped me do the gray, because I didn't really like the traditional red that it came with. So I thought that was good. And then so we got fast passes in here. And I like putting up these barriers because it kind of makes it seem realistic. And that's one thing I was really trying to go with in this park was realism. I don't care if the guests walk through stuff. Like, I just want it to be realistic. So it's like you're waiting in line. And these lockers, I found them off the workshop, and they were created by Ted07386. So I think they look good. And then this idea here for the strollers and drop-off I got from Geekism. I think it was a couple years ago. I was watching before I started this park some stuff, and I was like, oh, that's a really cool idea. So I like this little area that's really open.
Yeah, that's cute with the little
strollers. Yeah, and it's like drop off. You got pickup, stuff like that. And then one thing I tried to incorporate too is a ton of backstage stuff, and I'll show that at the end too. But you can kind of see through here. You got a little maintenance area. So I've got 3 or 4 of those throughout the park, and then here I've got, and I'll show you at the end this kind of elevated view of it because I don't necessarily want to get off flip cam view right now. But I've got this eating area, and I kind of colored the queues or the queue lines to kind of the color of the building. Yeah, so that's this area. And if we go to the other side, so I don't want to necessarily take too long. I used a different style, but it's still the same trim to kind of try to make it look the same, you know?
Yeah.
Guest services. And then we just got more food and shops in here and stuff. I did really like how this turned out. You know, it's just a basic little restroom area, which I don't know why. I hate when they walk through stuff like that, but I understand that's how it is. Yeah, so this is the basic plaza. And like I said, I'll come back around and show aerial views of stuff because we're in the flip cam view, so it's pretty cool to be able to walk around at this eye level, you know?
Yeah.
Just hadn't really done this much. I'm definitely going to use this a lot more.
Yeah, that looks cool.
Yeah, so I think this looks really pretty when you come out here. Is now you see the flying coaster and you see the Giga coaster in the background.
Yeah, so this part reminds me of Epcot with the big lake in the middle and all the path is going around it. That's sort of like how Epcot is. For
sure, yeah. And so I got this idea from Magic Mike 69. He, on his Ride the Movies park, he has a lot of like a little pier boardwalk area. And so I really got this idea from him, and I just kind of ran with it and kept adding more areas like this as we went. But so as we go to the left, this will be the first coaster. It's called Blue Hawk. And like I said, at the end, for those of you that want to watch, I'll have a section where I kind of break down a couple things on what I did. But yeah, so this ride sign here was created by Vincinnati, and I accidentally got rid of the head, the little head on the tall enough to ride thing, but I didn't realize that until after I was over 100%, so nothing I could do about it. So here's the queue. Oh, so it's like you actually walk up the stairs. That's pretty cool. Yeah, our cats are wrestling, so sorry if there are any loud noises or meows. All right, so... Oh. Okay, so I guess that's what happens when you get out of flip cam mode. So we'll probably not be in that as much just because I don't want it to kick me out like that. So here's the station I decided to do. A lot of times I don't really have an idea with my station going in. It just kind of comes together.
Yeah.
So it's called Blue Hawk. It's a floorless coaster. So let's ride this one in front bumper view. I don't know what we're waiting on. I guess, let's see. Oh, it's probably waiting for are people on the ride?
Oh, no. Oh, there's like 2 people on the ride.
I guess it had closed down, and then, yeah, so I'm going to speed ahead. Must have broken down, and now it's working again or something. Alright. So I'll speed up to the top of the hill. But I like putting these little lights on the hill because it looks good at night. All right, so that was Blue Hawk. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I really like that. I don't know what kind of inversion is that big one.
This is sorry, our cats. We got 2 cats, and they just always seem to want to play at this time, and they're up on the ledge by the stairs and play fighting, so we didn't want them to fall. So I think that's like I forget the name of it. I think it's like a butterfly something. I can't remember, but yeah. So as you can see here, like I said, really massive inversions, and the height is about 200 feet in terms of the highest point with the ride. With this my little backstage area with my transfer track. And so I really like how this turned out. You've got the walkway, you've got the area where the track can slide over, although I really should have gotten rid of that support. And you've got the little protective area here for the maintenance workers that would be walking up there. You got some wires going across. So I've just tried to do more with the transfer track and backstage areas. Even though nobody ever sees this or guests never interact, this to me is like my favorite part of doing stuff in the game. It's kind of like all the backstage stuff.
Yeah, it's just interesting how you really like that stuff, and I'm like, I don't. It looks ugly to me, and I don't want to put anything ugly in my park.
Yeah, I got you. So,
not saying what you did looks ugly. I just mean, in general, I'm just like, I don't want to see trucks in the back. And
well, yeah, and so I think the funny thing is, like, I've was talking to Jasmine about this the other day, like with trees. You know, like with us playing this game, we're always looking at stuff from an elevated level, right? And so sometimes when you see trees or different things from that elevated level, it looks so weird. But then it's like if you're actually that's not the view you see it from in real life, right? So in real life, you're seeing everything from guest point of view, which means you don't actually see any of that maintenance stuff. But I really love how this kind of goes right here by the water.
Yeah, that's cool. What's this little building? Is that the bathroom?
No, it's just a little vending area.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, so I tried to have it model kind of the style of that station.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to the next area. And this one was named by my lovely wife. So she came up with the name. Yeah, I probably should have put some supports behind that sign, but it's all good. And so we've just got a couple flat rides over here. I'm like, with flat rides, who cares? But apparently everybody loves this ride.
Yeah, see, they care about it.
I know, they're just not as fun. But yeah, and that's one thing with the Oswald meter. Like, the one thing about this park I feel like that's really not realistic is there's more coasters than flat rides. But it's just because, like, I love building coasters and love having big parks, and it's like there's only so much we can do. So here's kind of a restroom back area. Now, Vincinnati, I saw he did something like this in one of his parks using these like light scaffolding kind of as part of the ceiling. So I thought that was pretty cool.
So were you saying, going back to your point about it's not realistic to have more flat ride? Is that
no more coasters than flat rides?
As far as what's available in the game, or are you talking about your park?
My park in general.
Okay.
Like if you go to theme parks, I mean, you
usually have a
lot more flat rides.
Okay.
Yeah. Like if you actually look on the list of rides at theme parks, there's usually like 40, and it's like, whoa, there's that many rides.
I thought you were saying something like the rides available in the game, they gave us a lot of roller coasters and not a lot of...
Oh, no. They did give plenty of flat rides. No, I was just talking more specifically.
I do feel like the flat rides, some of them are very similar to each other, and I wish that they had kind of differentiated a little bit on that.
So what are your thoughts on this station in this area?
Yeah, that station is probably my favorite of the ones that you built in this, just because I really like how that those triangles and just looks really cool.
Yeah, so I just used art pieces. Is one thing that Iron Matty, who's got a YouTube channel, go check him out. He kind of helped with one of my previous parks, kind of showing me where I could save pieces at. And so doing art pieces instead of like wood pieces, and then these are just coaster supports. Now, obviously, I didn't save on pieces doing all these hazard strips, but I think the hazard strips look awesome.
Yeah, that looks really nice.
I think it just adds a dimension to it. Then I love this backstage area that I did. The building, I think, fits well. And one thing that I did, too, is, we can't... Like, I wish you could have a spare coaster on a piece of track, but you can't have that. So what I did was I just built a whole new one. But then I kind of hid in the walls
Yeah, the little person.
the operator and the lines.
Yeah.
So to try to mask it, which I think that looks pretty cool.
Yeah, that does look cool.
And I am not going to try to sit there and say that I know exactly how backstage areas operate, because I have zero knowledge of that. I'm just building stuff based on what I've watched on YouTube and how I've seen like a lot of PC players make them and stuff, you know. Like Nerd Chacho, Matt Lown, Geekism, different people like that, right? So really, yeah, I enjoy this. So now let's ride the ride. Alright. So we'll do this one track view as well. Alright, so what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, I kind of modeled it. I mean, it's not Oblivion, but I kind of, the one that said Alton Towers, I kind of got the idea from it because a lot of dive coasters, at least in my experience, are not long. And so I didn't want to try to make something that was unrealistic or super long. And so I like how this is lit up. So yeah,
I like the red lights towards the beginning.
The what?
The red lights where they're walking.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I thought that was really cool, putting those
Yeah.
around the entrance to the tunnel there. And yeah, one thing I noticed that I thought I corrected, but obviously I didn't, was I forgot to get rid of that piece of ground. No, we want perfection, right?
No, we don't want perfection.
Just like, I just hate how we can't get rid of curbs on like one side. Like, you got to have curbs on both sides. Like, this to me, that part, that drives me crazy. You got the curb and you got the railing there, but there's nothing I could do.
Planet Coaster reveals everybody's OCD side just a little bit.
Yes. So I don't normally think of myself as like a perfectionist, but
yeah,
then...
but you definitely are in this game.
Yep. So let's look at how the pier area looks at night. So I think that looks super, super cool.
So which area would you say is the area that you're most proud of? Was it just the one that we came from?
I'd have to tell you once we get done again and kind of go over everything. So I'll do that at the end. But one thing I do want to show you real quick is how I did this area. And so all this is, it's 5 pieces that I put together. So you got those 2 railings, and then you've got the one kind of ceiling piece, and then the 2 wall pieces. And I just advanced moved it and shifted it slightly to where I tried to always get this to line up. And so, yeah. And Maddie, if you're watching, I know I'm using a lot of pieces there for these 2 railings, but I think it looks good, so it's worth it. Alright, so here's my area that I really like too. It's under construction. It's an RMC because I've got a lot of different types of coasters in this park, but I don't have a wooden RMC, and I thought I'd play an Iron Gwazi joke. So I called this Iron Horse. It's expected spring 2021, but they actually have no idea when it's going to be open. So if you can see back here, which hopefully people who know that Iron Gwazi still is not open understand that. So I've got some like construction trucks and stuff, some cranes. I forget who made these. I'll put it below though, because it's on the workshop. I've got this little area back here for workers, and then it's also got a connection to the other the next area we're going to look at.
Yeah, it looks cool. I really like that idea about it being under construction.
Yeah, so I like this view right here when you kind of see the big coaster in the background and this. And so it's funny though, is when I made these rides, it's like I got a couple that are really big, but then I got a couple that are pretty average for like their coaster type. Like flying coasters normally aren't that large, and this one's not that large. So this is kind of more of like a foresty area. So you've got this ride right here that's kind of under that covering. Got all the rocks and trees, and I put the wooden fences because I did not like the fencing options with the game. So that took up a fair amount of pieces, but I think it's worth it. adding that fence. And so this one's called Into the Woods because it's kind of a foresty area, and I'm terrible at making up names, so feel free to make fun and critique any names that I've come up with. But I will tell you if somebody else created one, so then you can make fun of them.
Based on the color, you should have named it the Pink Panther.
Oh, Pink Panther. I can always go back and do that. But yeah, he's Into the Woods. That's not really a foresty color. You're right.
Or like bubble gum or something.
Yeah. I don't know why I went with pink. I just have never made a pinkish coaster or purple. And so I was like, let's do something different. And then it's like, just kind of ran with it. So. Alright, so that was Into the Woods.
I like that one.
Yeah, sorry if it lags a little bit. I think I said that before. So, yeah, so here I kind of have the transfer track inside. So I feel like a lot of the flying / dangle foot coasters or inverted coasters kind of have their, it's like a building that, and then the transfer track's kind of inside. And I saw Ted did this on one of his parks as well, because why in the world could they not make a rounded circular staircase that we could use for maintenance areas up here? But yeah, so it's just to be like a ladder essentially. And then just real quick at night, tried to light everything up well. So you got this area, and then down below I tried to put a lot of like little stuff that they might need. You got the stairs and different stuff. So as you can tell, I like decking out these areas that, as Jasmine said, no point.
I mean, if nobody's going back there, I mean, I do understand putting a little bit of something like recycle bins or something like that, but I'm just a little bit different, and I would not spend that much time on that.
Yeah. Hey, teach their own though, right? So that's what it looks like at night. I try to keep consistent lighting throughout the park in terms of the light color. So I think it looks good. Now let's move on to the next area. And this I modeled, I think is like Jur, I think is how you pronounce the name. I saw somebody made like a Starbucks type building. And so I kind of modeled it after that.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite building that you've done.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and so I saw earlier when I was looking at it, some people were walking through some walls. I swear I placed barriers down everywhere here, but you never know. But yeah, so there's bathrooms back here. So you got a couple shops. I probably should have put signs, but I was running out of the meter, and I wanted to kind of forgot about that. But yeah, so I think it's different looking, but the wood I think kind of has it fit in with the area over here, and then this brick kind of carries on the colors of the other parts of the building.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and so here's another walkway, and this is maybe my favorite. Okay, when you said favorite area, I think this is what I'm most proud of right here.
Okay.
Not that I'm the most proud of this ride individually, because I think it's the least smooth out of all my rides. It's not terrible, but like, I just love how this looks at night, and doing this kind of little pier, and the fact that you can, you can walk down here and you see the ride going right by you. Yeah. I just think that's super cool. Not to toot my own horn, but I think that's super cool.
That's something that I would like to do more of, but it's when I'm making a coaster, I'm not even thinking about where the people are going to walk. So It's it looks really cool how you have that, and I mean you have it on both sides too.
Yeah.
And it's going over the water, so it's that really good job on that.
Thank you. Yeah, so that was not my intention to have it exactly like this. It just kind of worked out that way. And so before we ride, I'll kind of go through my process on how I did this, which I wanted to add more of these protection things. And what I did instead of I had like a little coaster support like connect to the track. So what I built first was I built the ride, and I built then I put the path kind of around it. And I didn't intend to have this area, but then when I decided, you know what, let me continue kind of the pier going along, I realized that I could have this entire thing be that kind of cement. So I was like, okay, that'll be kind of cool. And the tricky part with that is you need to flatten out the area, make sure everything is flat before you lay down the path. Because then when you lay down the path, if it's all flattened to the other surface, this part will be smooth the entire way. But for example, if it's a little bit elevated, it's going to mess up your entire pier, right? Because you're going to have to raise the flooring a little bit to cover the grass underneath. Because as you can see, their feet aren't really clipping, right? And it's because I've got it as close to the ground as possible without it actually being on the ground. So just something to keep mindful of. But this is probably my favorite station in terms of how it looks. Let me go back to daytime. But we'll ride this one at night, though. I didn't really do much with the queue, kind of running out of time and stuff like that. But yeah, I really like this station. I got the idea from Matt Lown. It's something similar to one he did. I just changed things up a little bit. And once again, I used the art shapes because that works out better than using tons of pieces. And I did the hazard strips on the entire floor area. So I know you said you like this station too, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so let's change this to nighttime. And I always appreciate, because I know I sent a lot of pictures to people as I was doing this, like I always appreciate the feedback. Oh, by the way, thank you Plipcam for Planet Plipcam for the name. I sent out, I'm just terrible with names, and so I said, you know, what should I name this? And he said it kind of reminds me of like the white cap of a wave at the top of a wave. So I was like, oh, that's a great idea. So shout out to Plipcam. You would not ride this one, huh?
Nope. I don't think I'd ride any of them.
You'd ride the kid coaster. Alright, so there's the ride. Now I didn't do a transfer track on this one because I ran out of percentage. But one thing before I turn it back to daytime, with these lights, I want to do something a little different than the normal lights I do. Let me get yeah. And so basically, I think it's kind of cool. It's a coaster support with a box light on it, and then I've got a little coaster support going this way to kind of connect them. So
okay,
lights going up, something a little different.
Yeah.
All right, so that one is broken down, so we'll have to come back to that because we got two other ones to look at. So as you can see, I really took the pier to an extreme. So let's go over here. Let's ride the kid coaster. I was gonna call it Twisted Caterpillar, but that would not fit on this sign, so I changed it to Leapfrog. Because to me, these things look like they could be like some form of a frog, but who knows. So nice, or I feel like it's a basic station, nothing too crazy.
Yeah, that's cute.
Let's fast forward and wait till the ride gets back.
What does it look like at night?
That's a good question.
I like to see all the lights.
All of the lights.
Okay.
Yeah, and so in here I tried to do the two colors of the track as like lights underneath it. I don't know if that really works well, but looks different. One thing I like too about this coaster is when you're in the entrance area, you can see it just above the tree. So like, let me pause it real quick. So if you're in here in the entrance area, it's just kind of cool that you can, it's like you see the top of it, you got right.
Which one?
Right there. So it's like when the coaster's coming, you can see a little kid coaster right there at the top. So it's like just high enough to be above the buildings.
I gotcha.
Alright, so let's ride the ride. Sometimes this camera just doesn't want to work well, right? So I always like to ride front bumper on these just because they're you got that big animal in front.
This is a fast kid coaster.
Yeah, maybe it goes a little faster than I intended to, but there's not really any hills.
Well, there's one.
And it's really smooth. I was happy with how smooth it got, or was. There we go. And can I say, chain link fences, I know I've said this many times, best thing added to the game. Second best thing added to the game was these fences over here. But it's like, why could they not have given that to us in the beginning? Why did we have to wait till the studio pack to get those things? Alright, so now this next one is called the Yellow Curse. It was named by Beneath. I hope I said that right. And this one I was really struggling what to do with it, and I just kind of, I know I'd watched one of his videos recently where he kind of made the windows custom. And so that's what I did here is I just have coaster supports and then coaster supports and then one below it, I think. Yeah, and then I just colored the glass window to kind of fit the color scheme of the ride.
Yeah, I really like the yellow.
So let's pause it. So this is obviously it's a B&M coaster that is modeled after the Hulk. And I didn't didn't really do much with theming, but this was kind of running out of the Oswald meter stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed the ride. Alright, so there's the ride. There's my little backstage area. Not too much. Just wanted to kind of incorporate in the same building.
That might be my favorite of the coasters.
Okay. Yeah, so there it is at night, Jasmine. And so it's a good look from the parking lot too. Don't really have the coaster lit up, but I mean, when you're coming into the parking lot, whether it's night or day, if you park on this side, kind of like the other side, you've got a good look of a coaster. And I really like the Hulk style right here as it kind of comes out, but I kind of did a weird like double twist, and I tried to make it more smooth, but since I do longer track pieces to be able to build more, since if you do a 4-meter piece compared to a 20-meter piece, you're using more actual supports for 4-meter pieces, which is why it takes up more. I couldn't get it any more smooth than this, but that's a really
that looks cool though.
Really cool inversion. Yeah, so let's talk about this last ride, and then I'll show a couple maintenance areas, and then final thoughts. So this is called the Titan. This is probably, to me, it's one of my favorite coasters I've ever made. I guess it doesn't really matter. But it's definitely a Giga coaster. If we look at the stats while it's going up the chain, if anybody ever gets on the ride, max speed 98 miles an hour. Biggest drop 97 meters, so over 300 feet. vertical G's are a little bit high, and I know where that area is, and I tried to correct it, but yeah. Don't worry, I checked the clearance right there, and it is enough clearance. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it reminds me of the what's that coaster in Atlanta that's
Goliath.
orange?
Goliath, yeah.
Yeah.
That one's about 100 feet smaller than this one, though.
That's one of the biggest coasters that I can remember.
Yeah, she's talking about Goliath in Atlanta that's like 200 feet, but it's a really good coaster. Yeah, I love having these Giga or hyper coasters because in American parks, a lot of times we have a coaster that does the out and back. Usually you have a hyper or Giga that does the out and back. So what about the colors I chose?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely out there. Yeah, I mean, what do you mean? Are you asking if I like it?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, honest opinion.
I probably would not have mixed those two colors together.
Yeah.
But I mean, most of my buildings are like white or like brown or black. So I mean, but you've done a lot of different colors in this park. So.
Yeah, I was trying to change up colors, and the reason why I chose these two is because that was the two colors that the coaster already was.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'll just try that. And so here's my transfer track. Don't have anything inside this time. But yeah, and now, okay, so you asked earlier, what am I most proud of? Honestly, this is what I'm probably most proud of.
Okay.
This warehouse area and backstage. So, I've got a couple spare coaster track pieces there. And so if you look up...
Are you putting this stuff on the workshop?
Yeah, I'm going to put this all in the workshop. I put this building already. Once I kind of put everything up there, I will definitely put this. Because there's definitely not that much warehouse, backstage stuff on the workshop. And then this... is good. I think this was like 280 pieces or something. So maybe like, I think that's not quite 1%. But then I tried to make this little access road to where in theory this would be where they would exit the park. And so honestly, I think here it is at night. So I like how this is set up. You got little lights right there. You got the lights from the trucks backing up. And this is... So I just made this out of, because some of you maybe are wondering, how do you get that white truck? And so this is just simply this is the garbage truck with 4 of the boxes on the truck kind of put together to actually cover up the...
Yeah.
Oh, so let me see this real quick. It probably won't let me click on it. Yeah, so you've just got 4 of these box trucks on here, and so if you look, you can kind of see how it's not perfect, but it's just a way to try to mask the fact that, and plus you've got the reverse things right there, but it's a way to kind of mask and use and utilize stuff that the game has given us. And so I think I'm happy with how I was able to incorporate all the backstage areas in the park. And then one more for us to look at is over here. They've got this little roadway going underneath the coaster here to here, and this is This is, I mean, like I said, this is not the most realistic parking lot by any stretch of imagination. But you've got some, this is where office workers can work at. Like you've got some administrative offices here, you got offices here, and then there's this little workshop back of house area to help for this coaster and so forth. But yeah, and one other thing I wanted to show too is I think I've shown this before. Moomin Little Socks was where I first saw somebody do this, and it's trying to add in that realism, right? And so I maybe overdid it, but basically what I did was I took, you know, a rectangle. I probably could have, yeah. So I just took one of those rectangles, and inside it I put the what's that called? The wall, basically the wall mount for the TV, and I turned it sideways as well. And what that does is it gives you the look of a handle and something you pull to like open like a cable box or something.
Okay.
So I saw Moomin Little Socks do that, which I thought that was great. And then here I've got this warehouse, which I've put this one on the workshop already. So, and remember my username is mbzust90. There's nothing inside, but then, oh, this one is cool. This is how I did this, was using the elevator doors. So I turned them sideways, and as you can see, if you just have one of them, it doesn't look good because it's not quite the same, right? So then I just flipped it around to where you've actually got two of them, and one is slightly in front of the other so that the colors don't kind of mesh and clash or whatever it is or start shaking. But yeah, so that's how I made those. Yeah, and so what are your opinions of the park?
I mean, I like it. Yeah, so one last question was is there anything that you would have done differently if, like, obviously if you weren't restricted by the Oswald meter, did you get everything done that you wanted done, or like what else would you have done?
I definitely would have made it a bigger park. I think I would have tried to do more with the parking lot to make it realistic, but I tried to limit the amount of actual pieces I use, just because, you know, I wanted to save a lot for the park. You know, I mean, obviously would have added in more stuff, probably would have had this wooden coaster done, but I do like how it's a construction area. And then I did want to put in a hotel, because my first thought was if I had enough, I could put in a hotel right here.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just would have done more, but I'm happy with what I did for what we were given. And it is frustrating with the Oswald limitations. And, like I understand they're put in here, but this has only lagged one time, and we're on 130, 135%. So, like, why? It's operating just fine. It never lagged on the coaster, so I don't understand where they put the limit and why they put it there, in terms of how they decided where it was at. So that's just me venting a little bit about the Oswald meter. But I mean, I'm ultimately happy with how this turned out. I'm still getting better. I've still got a lot of ways to get better, but you know, for my, I feel like this is a really big upgrade from my previous parks. Even though Trinity Lake I feel like was pretty good, I feel like this is still an upgrade. Oh, and I like how this looks from above. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, because I remember you were having some trouble when you actually opened the park, the guests were going a weird way to get to, like they were cutting through that building, and you had to kind of reroute them. And so I just think that's like one thing that I feel like in Sandbox, you know, a lot of people build without having the guests, and it's like you kind of have to have the guests just to make sure that everything is flowing the way you want it to, because they're gonna go, you know, the quickest way to get to wherever they're trying to go.
Yeah, so. And so right here, which I mean, I kind of did this before, but I've learned a lot of this from watching Nerd Chacho's stuff. I mean, his stuff is really great. But you know, I just have the flooring pieces. And originally I had this connected. Well, I had to disconnect it. And originally I had this one connected here, but I had to disconnect that as well. Because literally what they were doing was, instead of actually walking up here like they're doing now, they would all flood in here and walk out this door or these two doors, because that was the quickest way to get there. And it frustrated me because I'm like, that's not how it's intended. But oh, this is really pretty from this view. I haven't seen this.
Yeah, that is pretty.
So yeah, anything else you want to ask or add in?
I think that's it, unless there's anything you want to add.
No, I think it's good. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. You know, I'd love to hear your comments, feedbacks. Is there anything that you, or what'd you really like? What was your favorite coaster? Is there anything you would have done differently? You I would love for anybody who also does maintenance areas or back of stage stuff. Is there any advice that you'd have, stuff like that? Because I really enjoy doing all that. And as I said, this park's been a lot of fun to do. And as always, make sure and hit that like button or hit that subscribe button, because I think about 65% of our viewers aren't subscribed. So we'd really appreciate it if you guys would consider subscribing to the channel. And hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
See you next time.